romantasy.
I feel like after going through a rough patch, book 2 and I are mending our relationship. Hi, I made no intro whatsoever to this video, so I'm popping in here. I'm Katesbookdate. If you're new here, I'm an author. All my stuff is linked down below. My latest book, Tell Me It's Right, just came out. If you want to check it out, would appreciate it. We're doing a vlog. This is mainly just chatting, give you a little update on how the book convention that I just went to went, and just get back to work. That's it. We're working on, I guess you would call it draft 1, the first round of revisions after the rough draft. And I have been so frustrated with myself and stuck, and I felt like I was spinning in circles because I kept rereading it, and I would make notes to myself, and I would always point out the same problems, so like I knew what was wrong, but I like couldn't fix it. Like I knew in a vague way how to fix it, but then I would sit down to try to make changes and nothing was happening, or like couldn't quite figure out. Anyway, I felt like I was in this like holding pattern for a while, and then I don't know what it was, either yesterday or the day before, I finally just broke through that, sat down, started making changes, and now I feel like we've got some momentum going again. I wrote like 2,000 words yesterday. I think I've written about 1,000 words today. I have a list of new scenes to get through. Finally figured I needed like a good motivation for something to happen. Like this thing needed to happen for the plot, and I had kind of like a weak motivation for why the character would do this, and I was like, I need something so much better than this, and I finally figured it out. And it was like it didn't need to be one thing, it was like a couple of things combined together, but like all together it needed to be a really strong motivation, and I just needed something to tip it a little bit more in favor. Does that make sense? Figured it out. Have had to do some research on like how this would work and what the rules to this thing are that are happening, because I have never personally experienced it, so we got stuck researching for a few hours. I'm also trying to set up for the rest of the books, because you get these little cameos of the characters who are going to be the main characters of those books, and I can't write those scenes with those characters until I have figured out those characters and the plots for their books a little bit more. So I'm a little stuck on a few things. I did one of them, which is for one of the characters. The other one is for the other character. So I just like, there's so much more background work that needs to go in before I can write that scene. That's a problem. Anyway, I don't know, maybe it was getting back from bookcon. I'm just like determined and motivated, and I want to write, I want to work. And I also think it is like I'm so close to being, I'm pretty close to being done with this draft of this book, and then it'll go off to beta readers and I won't have to touch it for a while. And that's like my carrot on a stick, because when I'm done with this book, I get to go to another fantasy book. And I think being at romantasy bookcon, I'm like, I want to work on fantasy again, but I'm in the middle of this contemporary. I'm also going to another fantasy convention exactly a year from now, next October. It would be great to have a release before that, and we've only written one chapter of that next fantasy book. I want to get back to it. Why am I talking like this? I haven't slept in weeks. Anyway, here's our current word count. We're just under 62k. I think we started the other day at like 59, so yeah, we've had about 2,000 words, 3,000 words. I'm not expecting this book to be as long as book 1. Book 1 ended up being over 100k. I want to say it was like 104,000. I don't think this one will end up there, but I do think it will get longer. This draft, just with my edits alone, will probably get me at like 70k, and then we'll see what my beta readers say. They might make some really good suggestions that add some pretty good length to this book, but I will be surprised if the final version of this book ends up over 80k. Yeah, I would be surprised. Good morning. It is Monday. I just went for a walk, got some coffee, walked to Whole Foods because I was out of the just egg, like liquid stuff to make vegan eggs, and I don't know why, that was just like really what I was in the mood for, so went ahead of my way just to get that for breakfast. Now we're sitting here working on a client project. I have Devil Wears Prada on in the background. I have Mr. Dean close by. That's the plan for this morning. I'm gonna work on this client. Something I need to take care of is I need to reach out to a couple of people who pre-ordered books for me for Romantasy BookCon, and then, oh, we haven't made a sit-down video about this yet. But you saw it if you saw the Romantasy BookCon video. Some of my books were lost. I saw a comment on that asking if they were ever found. They were not. So, and they were unfortunately all book 1s for the most part. Most of them were all of my book 1s were missing, but that wasn't all of the missing books. There were some other ones missing too. Anyway, so some of the people who pre-ordered and one of their books was missing, I told them, you know, I have them in stock at home. I'll ship them to you when I get home. So I need to reach out to them and get their mailing addresses. I guess I'll tell you about it now. I'll tell you what happened now. So I am planning on doing a sit-down video talking about Romantasy BookCon, and basically more the financial side. Was it worth it? What were all of the expenses versus how much money came in? you know, all the stats. I like to do that kind of stuff over on Patreon. That's going to be our self-pub 101 video this month. However, just in general, I had a great time. I have a lot of things that I'm going to say that are going to sound negative, but I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining because I'm genuinely not bothered by it. Like, it is what it is. It happened, and I still had a really, really good time, and I'm glad I went. I also don't blame the event for this at all. It wasn't their fault. So basically, the process was, for me, because I was flying in and obviously I couldn't bring all the books with me, was I had them shipped there. You pay them a fee to have them store them at their office, and then they were supposed to bring them to your table for you. And that was a whole other thing. Initially, for some reason, I was separated into a random ass room with like 4 or 5, there were 7 of us in that room, and everybody else was in the ballroom. And then us 7 were like weirdly sequestered into our own room. And the second like me and the other authors walked in there, we were all like, oh, like why are we over here? Here we go. I don't know how we would be able to see this. This was the ballroom with everybody, and you see that like walkway. We thought it like connected. From this map, it looked like maybe they were gonna like open that up and it just connected and we were just kind of tucked in the corner. That was a separate ass room, and they blocked it off, so you had to like leave the ballroom and then go in. So like no one knew we were there. So we were like, wow, this is kind of shitty. So we were there for the first day until about noon, and then they ended up moving us into the big ballroom. So I'm really grateful that I did end up getting moved into the main room. Being in our own little separate thing was kind of a bummer, but when we went to set up and we were in that separate room, none of my books had been brought to my table, so Paige and I had to go track them down. And then so initially when they were missing books, I was like, oh, maybe there's just like chaos because they're currently taking all of the books to people's tables, and since we went and took my books and brought them, maybe they're just like out there somewhere. They were not. So some of my books I shipped there through Ingram Spark, because for my omnibus it has to be through Ingram Spark. It goes over KDP's page limit, so it's not capable of being printed through Amazon. And then I shipped a lot of things through KDP because it's cheaper to print through them. So basically I'm saying all of my orders arrived in like several different orders at several different times in several different boxes. And so one order was 22 of book 1, and that is unfortunately one of the boxes that went missing. And those were for some pre-orders. They had a bookshop on site that were gonna take some of mine, so I was supposed to take them up to the bookshop, and obviously it was supposed to be book 1. And then I had planned on having the most of book 1 at my table, and then a smaller amount of all of the other books. And luckily I did also get some hardcovers of book 1, so I did have the hardcovers available at the table, but I only brought 10 of those because I thought people would want the cheaper version. So long story short, I had a shit ton of omnibuses at my table. I had some hardcovers of book 1, and then I had like a couple of paperbacks of the rest of the series, but no book 1, so people couldn't get a complete set. And then I had my puzzles. So it's a mystery. Some of my hardcovers of later books in the series were missing, and a couple of my omnibuses were missing as well. But the one big box of book 1 paperbacks, I went back to Amazon to like look at the tracking info and like the delivery information, and they provide you with like a picture. So I was emailing back and forth with the people running the event, and I was like, so here's the picture that they sent me that shows it was delivered. And her response was, oh my god, I have no idea where that is. Like, I have no idea where he left that. So because all of my other packages said they were signed for by the front desk, and then this box looked like it was left in like the back alley, like behind a back door somewhere. And she was like, I have literally no idea where that is. So, and that was delivered back in September, and then the event was in October. So it's like, if they didn't find it, they definitely don't have it now. So who only knows to this day where that box ended up? A very heavy box full of 22 copies of the same book. We do not know. How did I get on this? Why am I telling you this? Yeah, so that just means it messed up some of the pre-orders. I felt really bad. People would come to my table and be like, I'm picking up a pre-order, and I was like, I don't have it, so we're gonna try and take care of that today. That's why I say I don't blame the event at all. I blame the Amazon driver for leaving it wherever he did. I've been also emailing back and forth with KDP, telling them like, you did not deliver my books to the right place, and it's been an ongoing email exchange for several weeks now. So no resolution on the Amazon side. However, the people who ran the event were so apologetic and kind about it. They ended up reimbursing me for all of my missing books, not just the like print cost, the cost that it would have been if I had sold them all. So they gave me retail price for all of the books that were missing. So I really, really appreciated that. So it was like a loss in the sense that obviously I much would have rathered those books go to readers, because it's even more of a loss than just that one book that was supposed to be the book to hook them, and then they would go on and hopefully get my other books. And then I also felt like if I don't have book 1, no one's gonna want to buy books 2 through 4 at my table because they can't get a complete set. So I do feel like it just kind of messed up sales for me in general. But I did feel very grateful that they reimbursed me for all of the books. So besides being sequestered into a random room at the beginning, losing a ton of my books, those were the only like major speed bumps of the event. Everything else went really, really well. And except for my panel, if you came to my panel, don't even talk to me about it. I knew it was gonna be bad. I knew I was gonna be awkward. I was like, so Paige was asking me like, so how are you feeling about the panel? And I was like, I am regretting agreeing to this. I don't do well talking in front of people, and I didn't even occur to me that the last time I had to get up in front of people and speak was probably in college, like 5 years ago. And here I am in front of like hundreds of people. Why did I put myself in that situation? It was fine, it went fine. Thankfully there were other people on the panel with me, but I also didn't have the questions ahead of time, and I am not good thinking on the spot. And I have trouble hearing sometimes, especially like in microphones with like the echoes and stuff. So I just feel like I made a fool of myself on that stage. So it was so embarrassing whenever people would come up to my table and they were like, I was at your panel. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Otherwise, so many more of you came up to my table than I was expecting. I think because I have a lot of silent viewers who don't comment very much. So whenever I was talking about it, not very many people in the comments were telling me that they were coming. So I was not anticipating very many people of my audience being there, and so having so many people come up to my table and be like, oh, I watch your videos, I was so surprised, and it was so nice meeting you. Sorry if I was awkward. I was also just really tired. I did not get a full night's sleep that entire week. I got to meet so many cool authors, and they had lots of vendors there, and I got so many like business cards from all of these cool bookish people. That was definitely the best part of it, was just like the networking. I've never been in a room of that many other authors and readers in my life. Like, most of my job is me being alone with my laptop, so being in a room with that many other bookish people was like such a new experience for me, and it was so cool. And to just meet other authors who are so much like better established than me and sell so much better than me, and to not like realize who that was, and just like to have like a really good conversation. It's a good thing I didn't realize who they were before we started talking, otherwise I would have been nervous. So I had a really great experience just meeting everybody, having people come up to my table who brought their own books, and I was expecting to see like my fantasy books there, but I had people bring up my contemporary books, my poetry books for me to sign. That was surprising. That was really touching. I didn't expect anyone to know me there, honestly. I really thought it was going to be just like an opportunity to meet new readers, so for people to come up and like already know me and my books was a surprise to me, and really nice. I really enjoyed I feel like I lucked out with the authors who were in the booths surrounding me. They were all so nice and so friendly. I thrive when I'm surrounded by extroverts because I'm an introvert, so they carry most of the weight for me. So I was next to, and originally in like that small little random room, I was originally next to Nisha Tooley, and then when we moved we were still next to each other, which was kind of funny. And then I was next to Michelle Hercules after I moved, and her assistant were so nice. And then I was on a panel with Abby Fox, and then when we moved again we ended up being next to each other. She was super nice. I downloaded her book on my Kindle yesterday. I'm excited to read it. Got to meet Abigail Owens. She was so nice. That was the person that Paige and I were hanging out with at the bar the night before everything. She was so nice. Didn't realize who she was until after like talking to her for 20 minutes. All in all, had a really great time. That's my brief recap. Everybody's booths looked amazing, and I have like a million books to add to my TBR. I haven't really been reading fantasy a ton, and everyone's stuff looked so good, and hearing people talk about it, like on my, even just the people on my panel when they were talking about their books, I was like, wow, that sounds really good. Like, what am I doing? Why have I not read your books yet? And everybody there, I swear, I felt like everybody had special editions of their books. Like, I would walk through and everyone's were just so fancy. The only thing that was holding me back from buying everything was I had no room in my suitcase. I had room, but I didn't have the weight limit. And then don't even get me started on how much it costs to ship my extra books home. Like, don't even fucking get me started. We'll go over it in the Patreon video. It was like, whatever you're thinking, worse than that. Can't talk about this event also without like acknowledging how lucky I was with the timing, because we were in Florida, so there was the hurricane, the first one, and then I got there like a few days after that one, and then I left like 2 days before the next one, so we were there just like sandwiched in between the perfect timing where we weren't affected by it. So we got really lucky, like just the convention as a whole got lucky, and my timing of getting in and out of there. I know some people who were at the convention who were staying a day or two later to like go to Disney or whatever, who then their flights got canceled because of the hurricane, and then they ended up being trapped there. So I feel very fortunate that I wasn't affected at all. If you're from Florida, I hope you're doing okay. I hope you were able to evacuate if you needed. My heart goes out to you so much. That's like all that's been on my TikTok For You page, is like the aftermath and seeing what happened to people's homes and everything. And like, I have never grown up near in any kind of like hurricane area, so I'm like not familiar with that at all. And I just like, it just like really hurts my heart. So I really hope you guys are okay. Anyway, this was gonna be like a 2-second like, hi, welcome, happy Monday clip, and I just talked for 15 minutes. So I am working on Sweet Spire book 2. I think I might be sourcing some new beta readers this go around. So if you have any interest in beta reading, feel free to reach out to me. I honestly don't even have like a preference if you've read book 1 or not, because these are supposed to be standalones, so it might be interesting to have a mix of people who are familiar with book 1 and people who aren't, so people can tell me like this, if it doesn't stand well enough on its own, if things don't make sense to them. So yeah, if that would be something of interest to you, feel free to reach out. I am planning, of course, the cleaners. I'm planning on an April release, so like timeline wise for the beta read. I'm wrapping up the draft right now. I wouldn't send it to you all at once. I'd give you like chunks at a time, and I'm pretty flexible with like, I don't have like a specific date I need it back by. I'm hoping maybe by the end of like November into December would be like when I would want all of the feedback returned to me by. It's pretty short right now. I'm guessing the draft would end up being about 70K. So if you're interested in beta reading for me, feel free to let me know. If you don't know anything about the book, if you want some details before agreeing to that, obviously contemporary romance, small town. Minor spoilers here if you don't want to know who the characters are for book 2, if you are actually going to read them. Just like trope wise, we have a single parent, reverse age gap, so she's older. There are some like triggery things. Don't know if I want to, I feel like I should warn people about that, but I also don't know if I want to say that to people who don't like to hear that. So if you are interested, reach out, and if you have triggers, let me know and I will be happy to share them with you, if that works. Anyway, I gotta get back to work. No. Pretty Caroline, oh, 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 stone cold, stone